Thank you all for coming for our third presentation, or third so-called TED Talk. And this time we hear something about a glass artist.
Oh, it's me.
Yves Goudot.
I'm in a meeting, I'll call you.
Turn off this Alphonse. Just kidding. So I can't start, I could start without talking about my beginnings in life, but I will start with saying that I'm from a figure skating family. My dad was a figure skating pro, and my dad worked for Coca-Cola for 35 years to try to pay for the family, to keep the family alive. And he was a figure skater as a kid, almost went to Worlds, and his dad died when he was 17, and he had to pack it in and go to work for Coke as a driver. And so he did this 35 years, and it wasn't enough money to keep the family, the 5 kids, happy. So he went back to figure skating as a coach. And for my family, it was cheaper to put the 5 kids on the ice than pay for a babysitter. So they would put us in the corner, and we would do our thing, play and whatever. And sometimes I would get a lesson. But the more lesson he would give me, the less money he would make. So there was a problem there. I wasn't getting lessons, and of the 5 kids, I'm the only one that took it seriously, which was not my father's plan. Because my father got his heart broken at 17 because he had to quit. And there's no way he wanted his kids to do a career. It was just on the side. But I took it seriously, and when I was about 12, 13, I picked up ice dancing. Partly because I wasn't that good at the double axels and whatever. And also, there was a lot of girls, and they were getting really cute, and they were all wearing short skirts. So it was a great place for a guy, a teenager, to be. And so I decided to do ice dancing, which meant ballet, which meant ballroom dancing, because you need to be able to ballroom dance, because all the dance we're doing on ice are ballroom dances, you know. And so I was introduced quite early to ballet, and because I was a guy in the ballet school, all the guys don't have to pay. It's free because there's not enough men, not enough guys, so they give you a scholarship. So I was doing ballet 5 days a week, and I was taking 2 or 3 days a week. I was taking ballroom lesson plus the figure skating. So to make a to move along here, my partner and I at one point won the Quebec ice dancing championship. We went to the Eastern Championship, and we won the gold medal there. And then we went to the Canadian Championship in Quebec City, the Canadian Winter Games, and we got the gold medal there. And then something happened there. We got approached by Ice Capades, because my partner was a gorgeous blonde and very sexy and long legs. And we were this upcoming couple, and there was possibilities of the Ice Capades hiring us. I did not want to join the Ice Capades just then. I wanted to keep competing as an amateur. So we decided to stick around for, well, I guess almost another 4 years. And then we went to Saskatoon for the second Winter Games, and we won the gold medal there again. And then what happened is the Ice Capades came back with a very lucrative contract. I still didn't want to quit. I wanted to see if we can go to Worlds. my partner saw the money and she went, she accepted the offer and they found a partner for her. It was really easy for her to have a new partner. So there I was, no partner. And what had happened between the first Canadian Winter Games and the second one, a friend of my dad, a rich Jewish guy, said, you need more lessons and I'll pay for everything. So I think I was 16 there. I left home, went to New York for a few months and then ended up 3 years in New Jersey, training at a high-end figure skating camp with my partner, a new partner, and everything was paid for. So, but when we came back, and she also joined Ice Follies, which is another company. There again, I had no partner, so I still wanted to keep going, and I investigated what was happening in Canada. There was a girl in Toronto that was suitable. There was a girl in Vancouver, and I decided to go to Vancouver because she was cute, which wasn't very smart because she was not very nice. But anyway, that's it. So we skated another 3 years, went to the Nationals, and that's where things got really ugly. I had a brain fart, and I totally messed up our performance, and we came 10th out of 10, which was devastating for me. My partner hated my guts because I messed up, and there I was. And I decided, that's it, I don't want to do this again. I was good, but I wasn't good enough. And there's only a few good enoughs. You know, you can only go so high unless you are better. And I wasn't. So at the same time, I had met a coach, this girl, Cynthia, who was a very high-end coach already in Vancouver. And we fell in love, got married, and I decided to turn pro. But not the Ice Capades or the Ice Follies. I didn't want to do the suitcase every week because you travel every week to a different city. So I decided to start teaching. And I teamed up with Cynthia, and we had this amazing team because she was one of Canada's most technical coaches. And I was an upcoming young coach, but I was very artistic with my dancing and the ballet and the design side of me. And so I teamed up. She was doing the technical part, and I was doing all the artistic part. I designed all the dresses for the girls, and somebody would sew them, and I did all the hair. I didn't do it, but I designed the hair. And I had all the fancy arms and whatever needed for those skaters to look good. So we became quite renowned in Canada. We had half a dozen kids in the World Championship in the 80s. And that was kind of the end of my figure skating because we got so high, and then we could not go any higher for political reasons. And I don't know if you follow figure skating, but it's very crooked. Like a lot of sports, it's very, there's a lot of politics involved. Like when one year at Worlds, you know, you had 13 judges, and you got 6 judges that are on the western side and 6 judges on the eastern side. I have 7 judges. And then the whole competition became, the winners were on the Russian side, or in those days it was Slavic or whatever. But anyway, I got sick of it. At the same time, our marriage wasn't working, so I quit figure skating completely. And by the way, I was making $82 an hour, which is a lot of money in those days. And I could teach 70, 80 hours a week if I wanted, because there's not enough guys. So I could have as many hours as I wanted. So I was making decent money, but I wasn't very happy. And we separated. I quit figure skating, And I sold the house, sold the pickup truck, sold the camper. We split everything. And at the end, I had enough money to buy a small condo. And I moved into my condo, and I had a Dairyland milk containers, you know those milk containers? And a piece of gyprock for my table, and that was it for the furniture. And there I am sitting there, and I'm going, okay, what's next? Well, it so happened that it was September, and in September there's night classes starting everywhere, and there was a newspaper that was shoved in under the door, and I opened this newspaper, stained glass class. So I decided to take a stained glass class. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. You know, so I take this little class, $49, $29 for the tools. I was all set. I did a small piece for my mom, and somebody saw it, and they said, oh, can you make me one of those? I said, sure, I can make you one of those. So I spent 2 weeks making the piece, and I told the woman $50. So then I started going, 2 weeks, $50? Something is not quite good here. So I thought maybe I'll charge more. So I decided to start doing craft fairs. A friend of mine was an artist, and he was doing craft fairs every Sunday. So I built half a dozen pieces, 2 beautiful lamps, and I did craft fairs for 3 years every Sunday, never sold a piece. But every week I would get a commission. Somebody would say, oh, I love this window, could you make me a yellow one? Well, don't you want to buy this red one? No, they want a yellow one. So I started doing commission work. And next thing you know, it got bigger and bigger, and that's how my business grew. I did 42 years in it. So I'm going to stop talking, and oops, I lost the signal. So I think I said enough about my figure skating. For me, if I reflect on my figure skating, it was a sad experience. I was a kid, I was too young, I didn't know what I was doing. I left home and I shouldn't have. But I don't regret it, because the ending was so sad, I didn't want to make a TED talk about that. Anyway, so that's me as a young, my first partner. This is us winning the Winter Games. And this is my last partner. She joined the Ice Follies and made a lot of money. But she was there like for 25 years, a long time. Now, you've probably all seen glass blowing in some form or another. And the reason I'm showing that is because early in my career, when I decided to do stained glass, I found out there was, I found out that there was machine-made glass or hand-blown glass. And the difference is a million. I mean, one is boring and one is amazing. So just quickly, when we do stained glass window using what we call antique glass, it just means that it was made the old-fashioned way before they had machines to make them. Most of the glass done all over the world is done by a machine, but some guys are still doing this hand blowing. So you got a guy that gathers some glass on a pipe. He blows into, you can see he blows into a cylinder, and then his helper will open the cylinder, and then he works it out. You can add color, whatever you order. And you can see here, this is important, you can see it that once he has this long cylinder, he puts it into a hot oven, and he cuts it open, and he will spread this into a sheet. So every sheet requires all these steps. So the sheets are like this big, and they're about $400, between $300 and $500, depending on the color. So it's a long process, and it's an expensive process, but the glass is amazing. And the reason we use it is because you never know what you're going to get. If you say, I want some blue, you might dark blue at one end, you might have a little streak of nothing, and then it goes pale blue. And that's the beauty of selecting each sheet and using the design in the sheet. So You can see this is one of my first windows. I had used a couple of doors in the transom, and I did 6 pairs for a cabin at Whistler, which is a ski center in Canada. But right away, I had decided I was not going to do small. I was going to do big, because you do small and it's gorgeous, but it takes so long and you make so little money. So make it big. Plus, I like big. You know, you probably heard the house we're buying.
Yeah.
Okay, but you can see here that all the different shades, all this is from 2 different sheets. So it goes dark, it goes. This was kind of an Art Nouveau style that when I was first starting I was into. Then more Art Deco. Again, all hand-blown glass. For a while I was doing a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright looking kind of design. These were doors. I don't have many pictures because a lot of my pictures are not digitized yet. And then every once in a while client would say, do something. Those are my favorite clients. Most of the clients would say, well, do something like this or something like this. But these guys, sometimes they say, just do anything. So I did this piece for a young couple that just got married, and it's supposed to be 2 hearts together. And this is, again, you can see that how the pink goes from very pink to clear, and the gray changes. And then I started doing a lot of more geometric kind of windows, which was an influence that I got from going to Germany. I spent 6 weeks in Germany training with a couple of guys that were totally amazing, world famous, and so I did a lot of this kind of work. And then, of course, the churches. And if you talk about, like for example, these windows are 8 feet high and about 3 feet wide for a Russian Orthodox church. And this particular one, because it's Russian Orthodox, I couldn't design it. It had to be a Russian Orthodox designer, but they didn't have a glass guy. So they come to me with a little sketch this big, and they say, we'll do that. So we did that, and you can see a close up. And if we talk about glass painting in stained glass, it's an interesting process because it's different than any other technique where you don't just paint what you see there. You paint the whole face and then you remove the paint. So what happens is I would paint some lines and some little dark lines, but then after this goes in the kiln and it's fired, so the paint is actually glass powder. So it melts into the glass and it stays there forever. And then you would cover the whole face with brown in this case and remove it with a brush until you like what you see. And if you just touch it, it's powder. You just touch it, that's it. You got to start over again. So it's literally dried powder just sitting on your glass that you carefully remove with some very fine brushes. And then when you're happy with it, you put it back in the kiln, melt it in, and then it becomes there forever. This is another close-up of the same project. And the same artist the year after gave me this job. There's only 3 shown there, but there was 8 windows total. They're 18 feet high. And again, same thing. She designed them. We just fabricated for her. This is an example of one of the angels that were on top. Yeah, it was. I was working with. At that point, I had 5 or 6 employees, and after this job, I had 15. Because that's when the Chinese, when Hong Kong switched. I forgot what year it was, but when Hong Kong went back to China, a lot of Chinese people from Hong Kong, very rich people, were afraid of losing their money, so they left Hong Kong and they bought Vancouver. They literally came to Vancouver, they bought the hotels, they bought the restaurants, but they also built amazing houses. And so they gave me a lot of work. I'm not sure why I'm saying that just now. But that's an example. So this is you can see it's a stained glass dome. And this is the back side of it. And I only put it there because, well, could you see the other side? So this was a Chinese couple who wanted, they had a double staircase going up in their house, you know those big staircases leading to the second floor, and there was a 18 feet diameter, no, this one was 14 feet, I think, diameter, and they wanted something in there, and they said they wanted Art Nouveau style, kind of, but they wanted 2 doves. Why, I don't know. So this is 2 pictures showing what it looks like installed and a close-up. You know. So these were a great project, and this is an example of not knowing what you're doing in business. I charged $60,000 for this, and by the time I finished, I probably didn't make 50 cents an hour. So it was totally wrong. But again, I didn't know. So because it cost me a fortune for the metal frame that was made by this German guy, and he was pretty good, but it wasn't that great for the money he charged me, so I got another one the year after, and I said, I'm going to make this metal. So, that's about when I met Monica.
How did you?
We were dressed like that all the time, of course. We play music, we dance.
That's an old one.
Okay, and if there's time at the end, I'll tell you a story about this window, but that was a window made for Monica after I met her. And some of you know the story, and some of you don't know, but I'm going to skip because there's more to do. And then sometimes she cleaned me up. After a few weeks, I was more cleaned up. But this is my second dome, and at that point I decided I'm going to make this damn frame. So I made it for 1/10 the price. You can see now it's ready to be painted.
Good.
And I don't want to get too technical, but we had to make molds because this dome is curved this way, but also curved this way. So we made some wood molds. This is part of the design. And then you could see the frame installed and the mold in one of the openings. Like there was an opening here and there was an opening here. So there was like 18 pieces. And you can see the sheets of glass that I was talking about. So these are put out there just to see what the colors would look like that far, you know, standing on the floor.
How do you get the glass curved?
The mold.
That's a good question. So this mold, that is wood, was also made after in plaster. So all the pieces were cut, you'll see the cutting in a minute, all the pieces were cut flat. I think I'll show you now. Oh, this is, I'll come back to this. This is, this particular guy, because he had seen the other dome and there was 2 doves, he says, I'd like a blue heron. Okay, which was kind of nice. You know, so this is the blue heron. It's been painted. It's not leaded yet. It's sitting flat. Right now it's flat on a glass light table, and you could see it now leaded and actually installed. And this one was 18 feet diameter and 2 stories high. Again, a staircase going around it, and then you get to the top, and this is what it looks like. Wow. So to answer your question about after the glass is cut flat, we made some plaster molds, a certain kind of plaster that could go in the kiln, and each piece was laid as it was supposed to be leaded, and each piece melted and bent a bit, just a bit, to take the shape of that mold. Otherwise, we couldn't have put it back together. It's a technique that Louis Comfort Tiffany invented. Except that he would use copper foil and we use lead, the traditional lead, so 2 different.
But all those pieces curved had to fit together.
Yeah, and that's not easy to work out because a piece that's flat this long, by the time it bends,
Shorter.
yeah. So we had to learn a few things. But this one was $250,000. So this time, from 60 to $250,000, I did okay. You know, but. My first one was a total disaster. Okay, then I'm going kind of in progression of semi-chronologically, but I kept all the stained glass first, and you'll see in a few minutes how I've switched from stained glass to sandblasted glass to bent glass to painted glass. You know, And at one point, we just combined it all, and that's when we started having real fun. And so this is Christ Church Cathedral. It's one of our oldest church in Vancouver. And what had happened with this one, they're in the middle of downtown Vancouver on a multi-billion-dollar lot. And everybody wanted to buy them out and to put a high-rise on. And somehow they got a heritage thing. Now the church will stay there, tiny little church. And but they had to make it look like it was 100 years ago. And this wall is on the main street of Vancouver, and it had been covered with gyprock for 50 years. So they said you need to put stained glass in there. So they took the gyprock out, and this, by the way, was 29 feet high. So it's a big window, 5 feet wide, the pieces. You could see me on top of this scaffold, and this is what was there 100 years ago. So they only had those little diamonds, and they wanted to make it look better, and so some rich woman, the Mac Blodell, which are very rich lumber family in Vancouver, they had the money, and they donated the money. There was a competition all over Canada for an artist to do this piece, and Susan Point, who is a Coast Salish artist, won the competition, and I worked with her on many projects, and so she approached me, "You want to do this?" I said, "Yeah." So she got $25,000 for designing it, and I got $350,000 to build it. And it was okay. It wasn't a great money thing because it was a big job, but it was okay. So you could see it. That's what she gave me. She gave me a sketch about this big in color, and I took it, and it was the tree of life. And because she is a Coast Salish, you could see a very abstracted eagles and salmon, and that was her idea. So I took this and I did this, which means I took it and computer generated it, and you can see the squares on the right. It represents some of the glass colors that we might use into this thing. And the reason we went, that's the year that I went computer for my stained glass, and it was great because now it was 29 feet, but it's the exact scale. So when everything's approved, I just say print, and somebody prints it 29 feet long. So everything's precise. Before that, I would have 15 guys, and I would say, okay, well, this got approved, make it 29 feet. Next thing you know, it's 29 feet and 2 inches, or half an inch too much. Then you go to install, oops, doesn't work. So I lost a lot of money from messing up. So when I decided to go digitize, everything was exactly what I asked for, and also I didn't have to pay him stats holiday, and I didn't have to worry that she had a period and this one didn't like the other guy or whatever, you know. So I went from 15 guys to 10 guys, or 10 employees, because there's as many girls as women as guys. But anyway, so I start having less people and making more money.
It's a beautiful design.
Yeah, it's really effective. You'll see it. This is in progress. Some of the pieces are cut. There were so many pieces, and to do it properly, to make money, you got to cut everything first. You don't cut and then put together and lead and cement. You do the whole thing. So I had racks everywhere with. Anyway, I had 5,000 square feet studio then, so it was quite big. There was a lot of room to have this. And this is some of the pieces starting to be assembled, and this is the piece at the end. Yeah. So and this is one that with the lights on at night. You can see it. Again, look at the tree, how the brown has a whole bunch of different colors. That was on purpose. Susan, the designer, was so busy. She's always busy. So after she got a $25,000, she just said, do it. And she came to the studio every once in a while, and she came to the to the glass blowing studio, and together we ordered the glass. Because you could go to this blower guy that you saw earlier and say, okay, I want a sheet of brown, but I want it to go dark brown to light brown, or blue. And sometimes you'll see later on in the next project, you're going to see, I could say, I want a sheet of glass that's going to be green to blue. And they can do that, and they can do whatever we ask. So again, different views. Oh, this is a cute little window I did for Monica at Valentine's one day. And it's kind of the, I put it in because it's kind of the beginning of my learning how to sandblast. So this, if you can imagine this, this is a piece of yellow glass. It looks yellow, but it's actually a piece of clear glass with a very thin coating of yellow. So when the glass blower makes the sheets, he'll take clear glass, he'll blow a vase, maybe this big, and then he dips into another furnace with yellow. So now you got the yellow just on the outside surface. So imagine if you make this into a sheet, if I take the sandblasting process and I remove the yellow, I get clear glass, which in this case is white. And you could have 2 or 3 colors.
What is the design represented? It looks like...
Just a bunch of hearts.
Yeah, but it almost looks like prairie colors and all.
Yeah, the color itself. This is one sheet of glass. Well, maybe 2. But they were both basically 2 sheets that were blown at the same time, so I could just have it from dark at the bottom and light on top. And what you see in the background is houses and trees and stuff, which is the beauty of stained glass, because when I do a piece, it's private, but at the same time you don't lose your light. Like right now, we're looking at a house in the Savalas. It's got a huge stained glass window. And the realtor, when she showed me, she said, well, come and have a look. And I went, that's got to go. Because it's got to be this beginner 101 stained glass. But it's big. It's like 6 feet by 8 feet or something, you know. But because the glass is ugly, to me. You know, I'm sure whoever ordered it, they probably think it's beautiful. That's fine. But, okay. And then I got this, I did 21 churches altogether. I'm not going to show you, this is the last one, I think. This one, it was a small Portuguese Catholic church, and they had just glass blocks in the window. And the priest, little short guy, said, whatever you want to do, Yves. And I love when they say that. So he said, but just make it colorful. Because the church, you could see that's what it looked like. It was white and the benches. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to make this colorful. And so I started designing it, and then he said, oh, could you introduce this and introduce this? And all of a sudden it wasn't so much fun. Because he gave me, there was 28 windows. They're 10 feet high and 2 or 3 feet, or 2.5 feet wide. He gave me 36 pictures. They were pictures of a Portuguese artist who had done, I think 32 or 36 paintings of the Virgin Mary, of all the different Virgin Marys. And there's a lot of them, you know. And so he said, well, select from that. And I'm going, what am I going to do with that? But I decided to take his paintings of this artist and abstract it so that I could sandblast it. And so what I did, first of all, I did a design, and again, these are just little guys like this, and you could see that the flow of the color was going from one window to the other. That was the first thing. But then he introduced all these middle parts, and that is, for example, one of the image of the painting that I abstracted and sandblasted through the glass anyway. I won't get into details too much, but this is us coming back from the glass blower. And again, I had asked him to do 6 sheets of this and 5 sheets of that. And you could see, when I'm talking about the beautiful hand-blown glass, this is a perfect example look how red this is, and it goes to almost amber, and this blue goes to green, and this way I can play with stuff. So this is me cutting, everything is cut flat on the light table, and then you maybe now I'm cutting the yellow and the reds, and again this was a lot of glass, so it was so much glass that by then I had moved to a studio half the size. I was working on my own except with one guy, my friend Jose, and we had glass everywhere. I had to build these racks where I could shove the glass in and waiting to be put together. And this is an example of in progress, or starting to lead the piece, and this is a close-up of one of the windows, and the glass blocks that were there had to stay. That made me mad, but so I thought, okay, I got to work with it. So I designed around these glass blocks, but at the end it worked out pretty good. I could talk about each one of those designs, but I won't because it would be too long. But this is what it looks like with installed.
Wow.
Beautiful.
And then, not too long ago, a friend of mine, I think this is the last day glass, a friend of mine asked me to do a window celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. And they're both musicians. She's a pianist, amateurs, and he's a guitar player. And they gave me a score. They had a song that they sang at their wedding or something. So I took the score and I made this abstract, big treble clef, and with some piano keyboards, and you can see this picture is inside one of my small kilns, and you could see that all the glass has been cut, and some of it has been painted with the score, the musical score, my signature on it. So this has been fired before it's going to be leaded, and at the end, well, here you can see on the bench where it's partly leaded together, and at the end this is what the piece looked like.
Wow.
But it was fun because the beginning of the score starts with this, and if any musicians here, you could probably read that. And this is more parts of the score in the actual real music. I forgot the name of the tune, and this one I had to put in. You might have recognized this. This is my first stained glass window in San Miguel, like Guadalupe. So this is we went to a friend's place in where is it, in La Jota? Anyway, a friend of ours built this house, and quite a gorgeous house. It's behind La Comera. I forgot what you call that area, but beautiful house. And I go to his washroom, and he's got the Guadalupe stuck on with a piece of plastic. And I couldn't help but say, you know, Bill, you could do better than that. So without telling him, I took, well, no, I told him, but I took measurements, and I didn't tell him what I was going to do, but I showed up the year after. And some of you might have seen me in the carport putting it together. How are we doing for time? I saw you watching. We're good? No? Okay. Okay, that's good. So this is an example again of painting and leaded glass. Now, I'm going to go quick through this, but then I started doing more and more sandblasting because the industry was changing. There was less people. People thought stained glass was old-fashioned, and so they started doing all these sandblasted project, and a lot of people were asking me for trophies. Well, you know, if you play any sports and you have trophies like bowling or tennis or ping pong, whatever, the trophies are like this, and they probably cost $17. They're plastic. There's a little guy like this, you know. But I decided I could do trophies, I could do awards, but I'll hang in. So this is an example, another example. The glass is thick, it's sandblasted, it's carved. This is a $2,000 piece. I was starting to do metal, so I torch cut this metal, cut it chromed, and then some corporation would come and ask us for multiple pieces, but they were all high-end, so this is a guy that ordered 36 for his employees or something, and another company, and And this one, which I've done for 22 years now, every year I do 5 of those. There's an award given to somebody in Vancouver who has surpassed an injury or mental illness, or like one year our mayor got one of those because he managed to become a mayor of Vancouver in a wheelchair. So this every year is a very special award in Vancouver. And then what happened is I started working more and more with native artists.
Yes.
So this is an Ida artist, and do you have your bracelet?
No.
Bummer. Okay. So this is a guy who brings me a piece of toilet paper almost, with a little sketch of this, which is a hummingbird, and he says, I want to make plates and turn into a bowl. So I said, yeah, I could do that. So we agree on a price. I meant to make 6, and then he comes and picks them up. He has no money, and he smells like a lot of booze. And he says, "I'll just give it to me, and I'll sell them, and then I'll pay you." I said, "No." And somebody had warned me after I said yes to this guy. They had already warned me he wasn't very reliable. So he said, "Do you want to do a trade?" And I said, "What kind of trade?" And he was wearing something like this. He said, "I could make you one of this for it." And I said, "No, 2. So he made me 2 custom ones, and Monica's got the other one. And they're different. So this is almost 25 years old. And I wear it every day, play tennis, work, whatever. So I started doing a lot of work for those guys, and what it was giving me income for something really easy. But it wasn't ugly stuff. It was still high-end, but it was easy. It was repeated work, which I never did before. But I thought, hey, I'm going to do 20, like for example, I did 45 of those. And that was a lot of money that I made. And it took a week, it's done, and then I could do my own experiments and my own whatever. So we did killer whales, and then we did salmons. And that led to start doing totems.
Yeah.
So this little totem is also an Ida artist. It's 2 feet high. This, another Ida artist. This one is 3 feet high. This one, as you can see, is 6 feet high. This one is 8 feet high. And it went up to 10 feet. This is an 8-footer. And those pieces are 3/4 inch thick glass, so it's really thick glass. It's carved from the front and carved from the back. So you get this amazing imagery happening. And again, they give me little sketches. And some of them are precise, but some of them are just rough. And I computer generate them, and so that I can do, like this one we probably did about 16 times through the years. And you can see this one is 10 feet high, or maybe 8 or 9, I can't remember. And then again with this other artist, this one is Susan Point again, Coast Salish. I did a lot of work for her. This was an in-progress piece, and you can see on top I had a glass piece. And she ordered many of these, and these are like $8,000 for me. It takes me a while, and she sells them $25,000. So she's quite well known, and she sells everywhere. It also gave me the opportunity to start designing systems to hold these pieces. So I designed this stainless steel, got a metal guy to do it, and this way it could be held in midair, which looks really good, and it's also safe, because when we first did it, they were touching the base, and then the base would chip and whatever. So now they were up in the air, and I put this piece in because I got commissioned to do a big fountain for a hotel in Seattle, and this shows you how, again, the piece has been carved, and then it had to be bent a bit. So we make a mold, it's in the kiln right now, and it just finished bending. And I don't have a good picture, but this is the piece of it. And then I started doing sculptures where the client would just say, do something, which is my favorite. So this is about 12 feet high, and the water's not on, but there's water jets at the bottom and it shoots about 10 feet up in the air. And that led to me doing handrails. There's 58 pieces of glass, and there's a funny story to this one I gotta tell you. So I do this handrail, it goes, you can see the shape, and it goes downstairs also. And we install it, client's happy, he pays, and a couple weeks after I get a phone call from the builder and says, "Eve, we got a problem." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "The inspector just failed your handrail." I said, "What for?" He says, "It's too low." And I know it wasn't too low, because we know the specs, that what height it has to be. I had a manager then, and I told the manager, "Go check out the city and find out exactly how high a handrail has to be for that area." Anyway, what had happened is when we installed it, it was just carpet like this. But then they changed the carpet to granite, which lifted the whole floor an inch and a half. And so in the staircase going down is too short. So I told the guy that I forgot this was $68,000 or something for this handrail, and I told the builder, I said, "Man, if I have to redo this, I'm bankrupt. You know, this is too much money for me." And I'm not the builder, but the inspector. He looks at me. He was a white boy. He looks at me. He goes, "I don't like those guys." And they were Chinese. And he says, "I don't like those guys, and you know, they're short. So maybe we'll pass it." So I got lucky because I got really lucky because he just signed okay, you know. So you know, so that's the story of that one. But I was really nervous because I thought I had to redo it. And then sometimes the requests for handrails or for pieces were more. Well, like you can see in this case, it's a tree sceneries with mountains, and most of the time people would give me freedom to do whatever, which is nice. But sometimes it will make me a tree scenery. So that's an example of a handrail. And then whenever I have nothing to do, I do sculptural kind of work, and I wanted to experiment. On this one, I wanted to experiment with dune figures. And I wanted to use brass and glass, which I've never seen anybody try it. So I ended up doing these 10 pedestals of these rather healthy women, just for the hell of it. And so it's stuck in my studio until one day some Chinese guy walked in. He goes, "Wow, I want this." You know, so I sold it for $80,000, and he put it around his grand piano. Like he had 2 pianos in the living room, and he put it in between the 2 pianos as a curve. Because they were, you can't see it, but they were freestanding, 2 together, and you know. So you can put them wherever you want. You can put one here, you can put one there, and this is a close-up again of the glass sandblasted and this brass metal that I put together. And that led me to start doing sandblasted work for churches. This St. Andrew Wesley in Vancouver is one of our biggest churches, one of the oldest, and it has a multiple amount of glass art of different techniques from different artists, English, French, and Germans, and they asked me, they said that this family had come up with $16,000 to do 2 doors. And it was inside doors, quite dark. And they wanted stained glass, but I thought stained glass inside, dark, doesn't. So I suggested to this woman, this family, I said I could do sandblasted glass. And I showed them pictures of Coventry in England. There's some beautiful etched glass in Coventry. And she said, "I like that." Okay. So 2 doors, $16,000, which is pretty decent. But there was 2 doors beside it. And then 2 doors beside, and 3 doors in front, and windows, 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 and side windows. So I was working with Jose, and I said, Jose, you know, I got the 16 grand to do this, and why don't we make the design for everything? So we spent the whole weekend just doodling different things, and I called her up with not the priest, but the minister, and I said, okay, we got a design to show you. So we had all these designs on the big light table, and I said, well, here's the design for the window that you're paying for, and we got a few other ideas. And she goes, well, I didn't ask you for that. So I know, but maybe, you know, we do the 2 and then somebody else sees it and has 16 grand, we'll do this one. And she goes, no, I'm buying everything or nothing. And she bought the works. It was $250,000, and we got glass everywhere. And so I got pictures of 2 or 3 of them. This is Martha and Mary. You know, whoever knows the story. Mary is listening to Jesus, and Martha is doing all the work and having some party. So that's just an example. And this is the fishers of men. These are big. They're maybe 10 feet higher. But it worked great because it was a dark area. And then again, I had nothing to do. So I decided to do some dancers. And what this is from, this is really old picture that when I was a kid, and I was dancing with I was training with the Grand Ballet Canadien. They had done a performance of Les Sylphides. You know, if anybody knows ballet. Anyway, there was this classical ballet called Les Sylphides, and the girls were wearing these chiffon dresses, and they had big fans on the side, and it was blowing the chiffon everywhere. So I photographed a whole bunch of these ballet dancers, and I decided to do a piece without the heads and without the arms, just the dresses. So this is my abstracted version of.
Now this is all etched glass?
It's all etched glass. Yeah, this particular piece was maybe 12 feet high and half-inch thick glass. So again, it's carved from the back, and some part is carved from the front.
What do you use to carve?
Sandblasting. Sandblasting. Yeah, I think I have a slide showing the process. I'm not sure if I took it out or not. And because things were getting bigger, I had 2 kilns then. I actually had 5 kilns, but they were smaller ones. I decided to build the big one. So this one was 12 feet long by 6 feet wide. So now we could do bigger pieces. And there was a new trend in Vancouver where people, a lot of corporations wanted textured glass. So this is an example of pieces in progress in the kiln. You can see the kiln has been lifted. So now the piece is ready to take out. And another project, we had to do bubbles. We started doing these wall dividers, and this is again 12 feet high. And it was just one big abstract face. See a close-up. This is another piece in progress on a light table. This was a sample piece for, this is the piece installed in a show. I did a show with 3 pieces. That was a sample for the Bank of Nova Scotia corporate office in Toronto, and this was 30 feet wide and 12 feet high. So this is just a sample piece to show them what we're going to do. And then, because we were doing so much sandblasting, we thought, let's get some color in this thing. And we first tried to paint, and it was kind of boring. So we decided to use glass powder. So this is colored glass that has been crushed by us. I put it in a carburetor. So you put a sheet of stained glass in there, or a piece of stained glass, turn the carburetor on, and the noise is amazing. But anyway, at the end you get powder. And we use this powder and we sprinkle it on. You can see this is a commission that we did a light for a snooker table. So, you know, a big snooker 12 feet long, and it had salmon going all around it. So this is before it's fired, and now it's in the kiln and it's been fired. I don't have a picture installed, unfortunately. And then another artist asked us to do these pieces. Again, it's in the kiln. This is a close-up of what it looks like. Sometimes it's very subtle colors, and you'll see in a minute, it could be also like this. This guy, I just separated an older guy, he was my age, now. Anyway, he bought this penthouse in Vancouver, and he had 9 doors, and he just came back from Quebec in the fall, and he got really turned on by the colors of the maple leaves in Quebec. He says, I want maple leaves everywhere in those doors, but I want the 2 bathroom doors to be babes. That was literally what he said. So this is the 2 babes with the maple leaf, and again, this is all powder. And Jose, who worked a lot on this project, he's got his fingers crossed because we just bought a new computer and we never tried it. So that was, with all this work, we tried the computer and it worked. But it could have been a disaster. So you see he's doing some final, this is all, again, the glass has been sandblasted, so there's crevices where you could put the paint in, and it's literally siphoned on. And then with a brush you kind of push it or remove it. And this is once fired. And you can see how bright the colors can be. This was actually a sample piece. I did 2 pieces as a sample to show them, and I made that into a screen which is at home, which is also going to be here.
Yeah, it's good color for the autumn.
Yeah, the colors are really gorgeous. So this screen I made, and I will bring this also here if we get the house. Then the same client, after we finished those 9 doors, he said, how about doing something similar for my ceiling lights? He had 7 lights going from the entrance, going to the living room. So this, you can see the light fixture. We cut the maple leaves in the shape of, with a piece of wood, in the shape of a leaf, and then this is what it looks like. And it was amazing because around this perimeter, I put LED lights, which you couldn't see, but the LED light would brighten up all this color. And it just, whoa. So it was a nice piece. And then another technique, I'm going to speed up a bit because I think I'm getting too long. Another technique that I enjoyed a lot is, I got a call from somebody who had slab glass, and slab glass is colored glass. They're 12 inch by 8 inches, about this big, but 1 inch thick. And it's a technique that, it's like stained glass, but instead of lead, it's cement that's around the pieces. So I did this small piece for our house in Vancouver, and then I sold the idea to a client with this. You recognize this? Joseph Wask is one of the billionaires in Vancouver, and I did a lot of work for him. As a matter of fact, I'm working on his new house right now, even though I'm retired. So he had this circle about this big. He said, do something, but I want this menorah. And that's a specific one. The 5 candle one is, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, it's Sabbath, I think it's. Anyway, he gave me a picture and then we did it. So this is, again, sandblasted, and the rest is glass that's been chipped. So you cut it, and then you literally with a hammer, you chip the edges so that light refracts and creates all these effects. Well, that brought me, somebody came in and saw this, and next thing you know, a friend of Monica had built or bought a cabin, it's a mansion at Whistler, and she had a bedroom that was kind of dark. So she decided to make a huge cutout in the bedroom to let light in, and she wanted a piece of art of mine. So I designed this, and I called it Hot Lips. And what was fun is, well, this is the piece installed, and what was fun is I was watching Laughing a lot in those days. You know when they used to open the windows and stick their heads out? I thought that was kind of funny, so this is 9 feet high, and if you stand, the upper blue part is on hinges. So you can open that and look down at the kitchen. And go, whatever. So I had that, she liked that idea. And again, you can see the window open now. And then because somebody, we didn't do any marketing. It was all word of mouth. Somebody would see something and they, hey, you do this. So this was the Surrey Memorial Church. It was a chapel, non-denominational chapel, and I decided, it's a quarter, it's 20 feet wide by 10 feet high, and I decided to do a big Bible with imagery in it, so you could see, again with that technique, you could see the Holy Spirit, and you could see the chalice and candles and the pack sign. Oh, that's me when I need inspiration. I go to France, have a cappuccino, and then sometimes I go to Rome, and I speak to the boss, and then I come back, and I was asked to do the Stations of the Cross for a Catholic church. I had to practice, so I got the feeling of it. And then we did small samples first. So this again is multiple techniques. This is 2 pieces of glass carved on the inside, so that then you melt them together, and in between the sheets, in this case we had gold leaf, copper leaf, and when it melts, it's amazing what it does. It does very uncontrolled. It does weird stuff, nice stuff, ugly stuff, you know, whatever. So these are samples, and this is kind of the end product, and it's a bad picture, and I don't have the pictures here because I got a professionals to do it, and they're in huge slides. So I got to digitize that one of these days. But so this was the Station of the Cross for a Catholic Church, and after doing this, the donor, who was a very rich guy, he says, "Yeah, okay, this is great. Now we're going to find an artist to do Jesus outside." He says, "What are you going to do outside?" The church was called the Good Shepherd. So I said, "I do that." And I had just finished a bronze casting class, and I did a little nude about this big. And anyway, so I said, "I do that." Anyway, so I'll give you a quotation, blah, blah, blah. So I gave a quotation, I got the job. And it turned out to be a 9.5 feet tall bronze sitting on a 5 feet high block of granite. And it was the Good Shepherd. You can see, this is the plaster version. And the head is, in this case, is the head is still in clay. And there's a funny story to this. At one point it was finished. Well, there's a few funny stories. One of them is that I had real trouble with the head. I just couldn't get the eyes and the face to work. So I decided to grow a beard. And then I had long hair. I had long hair down to here. And I decided to grow a beard, and because it was so high, there was scaffolding all around it. And I used to work at night, and I would put a mirror on an easel besides the head. And I would start looking at myself. And I was, oh, here's the nose. You know what I'm going to do with this? So it was starting to look okay. It was starting to look like me. But the client, the donor walks in one day, he says, "Steve," and I'm up there on the scaffold, and he's down there. He says, "You know, Jesus was Jewish." "Yeah." "Well, the schnoz. You know, give him a schnoz." So I had to build up his nose and make it bigger. So that was kind of fun. But then what happened is, was finished. We hired, it was all plaster, all shiny, and now they had to come and make a mold, front and back. For the, I don't want to explain the bronze casting process, it's complicated, but you make a mold of this, front and back, and once it's dry, you release it, you have 2 parts, then you bring it to the foundry and they cast the bronze. Well, we got it all, they got it all together. A couple of days after they show up to release the mold, they could not release it in the neck. So they said, Eve, you know, we're gonna have to put this thing down. Because they couldn't work that high and they didn't want to break anything. So through the whole process of making this, I was filming. I had a Super 8 camera. I was filming all the steps because it was kind of fun and I wanted to do something with the film eventually. So they decided to put it down, and you can see how high this is. And so the beams of the studio were 20 feet high, so it was not a problem. So we put a hoist on top of the beam. They put the rope around both arms, and I'm filming while they're bringing it down. And it's one of those hoists where it goes click, 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 click. And about this angle, the guy in charge, his name was Steve. I said, Steve, that rope looks like shit. He says, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. Snap. So now Jesus was like this, no face. The face was totally gone. So another 2 months of, so he gave me a reduction on the casting, but still. So, you know, things happen, right? So that was a bad one. And this is me working, I did always work naked, but it was very hot that high in my studio. So you can see again, I'm just sanding the plaster, and the head has not been done. And this is kind of the end product of the head and the piece outside. And I also sandblasted this had sheeps all around it because it was the Good Shepherd. So instead of putting a sheep behind his shoulders, I decided to go more abstract. And this is a typical stained glass artist studio. You need to have a pool table, you need your guitars, and you need your motorcycle. Otherwise you can't do stained glass. Oh, and then this is us, younger us. And okay, then I started in another direction, really trying to put metals in between glass. So this is going to be eventually a head, an abstracted head, with sandblasting carved around on the edges, sandblasting on the outside with color, in between two pieces of 1-inch thick glass with, in this case it was paint and copper leaf. And when the copper leaf melts in the kiln, it becomes red and gray and black, depending on the temperatures. And so that was an experiment. And another head. And this is kind of the finished product. It's not installed yet, it's just sitting on a sheet. But this is a series that I wanted to do of couples. And the couples, every one of the series, there was supposedly 6 couples. It was a way of me showing the difference between man and woman and how sometimes it's hard to understand each other. And so this on the left is the man, and he's a jazz pianist. And the actual score that you see is from a real score. And the woman on the right is a writer. So you can see the difficulty of understanding each other because they have different language. And if you could read the word, you know this, what's it called again? This,
Let me count the ways.
yes, but who's that again? Let me count the ways. Elizabeth Browning, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I was playing with this idea, and then we did it. I'm going to go fast now. Because we had the big kiln now, we could start doing tables. This is a huge table that I worked with this guy, Bob. We found some scrap metal and made the base. We poured the cement blocks. And then I got into another technique, and that's laminating glass. And so these are all quarter-inch thick piece of glass that I chipped the edges to make them look rough and glued them together to create whatever, in this case, a coffee table. And it was kind of a fun piece, a 1-inch thick glass again. I sandblasted right through, so there was like 2 separate coffee tables. Sometimes you could put them together, sometimes you could put them apart. And this was another fun project. This guy asked me to design a fountain for his studio. He had a hyperbaric chambers, and he wanted water coming down. So, and another artist that does, not a water jet, but laser cutting. He cut me 430 layers of 1/8 thick medite, or medite is a particle board. And you can see, for example, this is one of the layers, and I would take a piece of glass and I would trace it, cut it, and then start stacking it. So this is in the studio, and you can see here, everything's been cut. It's in the studio, and this metal is just to hold it together, but it won't show because this will be covered with rocks. And I don't know if the film is going to work, but yeah, maybe it's going to work. So this is the piece installed, and maybe you can see the water. Yeah. See the water's coming down this piece. So my whole 42 years was quite often trying something different. And because of that, I never made much money, but I kind of managed to stay alive. If I was to do the same thing and sell the hell out of it, I would make a fortune maybe, but... Oh, little motorcycle thing. Monica's new, oh, that was the Victory. She bought this amazing big bike. It was actually too big. And so after a while, she decided to, oh, this is Monica attempting, and we don't know if she made it or not, but she's attempting a jump shot. So what she's trying to do now, you see that her cue is raised, the cue ball is there, but she's trying to sink the 8 ball to win the game. But I won't tell you what happened, because I don't know. But she can jump. And this again is a typical Glass Art Studio office.
It's a good show.
And this is kind of fun because this is our last 2 bikes. I had a big Victory, and Monica had switched them to a Harley. And after a while, should I play this or is it too long?
I don't know.
Let me try it, see if it works. Do you have the sound?
Sound is there.
The sound is,
It's got a thing
It's
to
on the
it.
camera.
let me try it.
You, on the left side, you can
Okay, let's see what happens.
click on the left side.
Oh yeah, we took all our, filmed all our bikes.
I don't know if I can bring it up.
We did that. So hard.